Yo, long live the spirit of cockatoo here, sir. When you sign up to be a musician, like, you're sacrificing your life or a part of your life. Like, nobody cares about what you're going through. The look on everybody's face confused because, again, remember, as far as all of us are concerned, we and the whole Dan camp, we're family.
What did Freddie McGregor think about the clash happening with Big Ship?
Anything I'm on depend on that to depend to. Well, me personally, because you don't know. My stance is me I defend my little brother.
I would love to see you
Yeah.
and Yendi Phillips sit down and do a show together.
Big up to the friends, the fans, the fakers, and the enemies. Forever keep my brother Craig Dennis in my memories. Think me no remember no for them come with agenda. Say them got you still them chat you. Tell me now, what kind of friend them is?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Muscle, and this is another Two Line Music Hut's Entertainment Report podcast. And today, we have a really special guest in the building. Listen, this man is a Grammy Award-winning songwriter, artist, producer, and everything. And he comes from the royal family of the McGregors. You know, we have in the building today, we have Chino McGregor in the building today. What's going on, big boss?
Yes, bless up my G.
You're good?
Long time coming, eh?
Listen, you know, we tried to actually do this in Florida, but things didn't work out and stuff. But now you're in Toronto. Now you have to come sit down in the studio.
Not until the right time, man. The time is now.
Yeah. How are you enjoying the city so far?
Yeah, it's nice. Today, the weather, the temperature kind of dropped today. But but yeah, it's cool. You don't know. Canada always is always a vibe, always a welcoming vibe too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man.
Do you remember how long you've been coming to Canada now?
For a while.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Canada is one of them places, one of the homes away from homes that, you know, like I said, always welcoming. I always get that love and that energy from Canada.
Definitely. Before we even jump into your story and stuff, I know last week we had a tragic passing of Coco T.
Yes.
You understand? I even seen you posted him and stuff.
Yeah.
What's your fondest memory of Coco T?
I mean, just of course being one of my elders, one of my mentors, and I mean, he's a virgin who I see him like my father. Obviously, him and my father grew. Them come from the same place in Clarendon. But he's one of the elders who every time we rub shoulders, him always there for lend good advice and, always have a positive energy too. You know what I mean? And I encourage you. Yeah, man. Don't stop. Just keep on and do it, Yeah, man. So, long live the spirit of cockatoo here, sir. Yeah, man. We need to cherish our elders. I did a song on the Chino album back in 2011, a song named Tell Them Before Them Gone. And that song stays resonating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have somebody where you rate, no wait till it's late, tell them right now. If you have somebody where you check for, talk that your mouth make for, tell them right now, tell them before them gone. Because we have a habit of not giving our greats their flowers while they're here in flesh, and then as soon as them pass and everybody jump up and he was a great person, he did this. The artists them you hear, everybody play them songs like Where Was This Love while they were here. You understand? So yeah, man, cherish people and don't be afraid for show love while people are here.
For sure, because you never know. We're so used to waking up and he's right here or she's right here. You think every day is going to be like that, but it's not going to be
you
like that.
You never know, and it's kind of, I don't know if scary is the word to use, but, I mean, like our pioneers, our, foundation, our core, our icons, like, we're losing them by the minute, and again, when I say we, the Jamaican community and the reggae music community, we need to do a better job of helping to preserve that. You understand? Preserve our history. The Cocotees, the Gregory Isaacs, the Daddy Uri's, the Toots, the Robbie Shakespeare's, Dennis Browns, all these great people. Like, we need to do a better job of, preserving the heritage and the history and, share it with the younger generation too. Yeah.
So they know and understand where it's coming from and where it should go because they know where it's coming from.
Of course.
So it's like a guiding star.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chino growing up now, what was Chino like as a kid growing up in Kingston, knowing that your father is a musician and all of this? What was Chino like growing up?
I mean, a simple kid, in my point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, quiet. Still kind of reserved, Yeah, I mean, obviously we grew up with the musical exposure, being around my father and all of his peers. Got that early exposure. I mean, being at shows with him, being backstage or being on tour with him, there are moments where we miss school for a couple of days just so we can travel and, being on the road, So, yeah, that was basically it. But pretty much outside of that, it's a normal, that's a normal kid life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so you think you're like that. If anybody else in the area or neighborhood or school, what would they say Chino was like?
Chino was quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, quiet. You know what I mean? So I kind of...
Like to observe.
Yeah, man. Reserve and, keep to a niche, a small circle. And I'm still that way today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. So I'm not one where I go, yeah, man, I mean him. Yo, my father is this, that. No.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know, trust me, you will not know. But if
You'll
you know...
discover it one day. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So even like as a kid in school, like most people would know who my father is, probably if them see him pick me up from school one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's about it. So yeah.
Definitely. And I know that you in I think primary school, you were in the choir. Vaz Prep.
So that was prep school, yeah, Vaz Prep. I mean something to do. I was never interested in any sports.
Yeah.
Or no other extracurricular activity. So I guess them say music. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So I find myself I sing in the choir. And not particularly with any professional aspirations, just, okay, music, we love music, and
That probably seemed like a normal thing to you because you see it in the household, so you figured being on the choir is just something that you do without actually pursuing it to want to do.
Yeah, and that's me not even realizing that was, the catalyst or the blueprint for what would be, what was to come.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
And was there a point when you're growing up where you realize, like, okay, the life that I live isn't normal compared to everybody else?
That's a good question. I mean, because to us, it's normal.
Very much so.
So our routine is normal to us. And when I say us, I'm speaking on behalf of us, the children of musicians. You know what I mean? So maybe to somebody else it would seem, extravagant, but to us it's normal. So even like same prep school life, so the standard evening run would be, because Gussie Clark, great producer, legendary producer Gussie Clark. So me and his son, Billy, big up Billy. Seeing me and his son went to the same school, Vaz. I think we're possibly in the same classes too. So the evening runs most times would be Uncle Gussie would pick up both of us, take us to the studio, anchor, and we're there, chill him, feed we, homework done until eventually my father come through now. And he would either pick me up or he would be there working and we'd there with him till him finish work night time, then we leave. So, but yeah, to us, it's a normal life.
It's a normal...
But I can't recall ever seeing it as, something extravagant, because that's the life we know. We don't know any other life.
Yeah.
I
understand because, again, you're growing up in it, you're living in it, so it's hard for you to see it. Somebody else would see it. It's like I'd say, holy smokes, Freddie McGregor's your dad. But to you, that's dad.
Yeah.
Okay, you understand what he does.
I have no other life to compare it to. That's literally the life I live and the life I know. Yeah.
So there wasn't really a time where it kind of clicked to you where it said, this isn't a normal everyday occurrence, that everybody else is doing. We're a little special in what we do.
I've never looked at it that way, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, we're just living in our
Your existence.
normal existence as we know it.
That makes sense there. Doing your stuff now. You went to Warmers.
Yes.
Yes. How was that now? Now you're in high school now doing your thing. What was Chino like now in high school in Warmers now?
Still quiet, still reserved, still I stick to my small group of friends. But at that point now, the love and the passion for music grew more. So, so to backtrack a little bit now, before high school, so me and Stephen were like 7 years apart.
Okay.
Right? But again, the love for music, we always used to have these like, I call like living room concerts, right?
Yeah.
So again, not for no professional intentions, for me anyway. You understand? So what we do, we mimic, like we'll pop in the Sunsplash VHS and we'll create our own setup. So we take like, say you have the board hangers, right? So we'll pull that apart and the board pieces would be the drumstick. The wire pieces now, that would be the hi-hat. You remember the little round tin cookies?
Cookie jar. Yes, man.
That would be the snare.
Yeah.
Right? And the coach feel it. That would be the bass drum. Right? And then we did have a tennis racket in the house. So that, you put a belt through it and a coin, guitar that. The broom or the map stick with the little roll-on buckle that the microphone. Then we take a whole black t-shirt and cut it up. Yeah. Small pieces, tight round, that natty. And so we just a mimic what we see on the VHS, where, you know what I mean, Bob Marley's or my father, or Dennis Brown, Gregory. But that was just, you know, something fun for us to do.
That was how you would play.
But again, thinking back in hindsight now, that was probably, you know, the early stages of the interest, the real interest and the love. Not knowing it would lead to this.
I would say that would be probably phase 2 because you're in choir. And then now you're playing around with these instruments. This is phase 2, still again, not consciously taking in, you know, but following the path.
Yeah. So when it comes to high school now, Wolmer's now, the love grew. I knew I was interested in music, but again, given my natural personality, I didn't see myself being an artist per se. I didn't see myself being somebody like being on stage in front of big, massive crowd, or, you know what I mean, all the attention that come with that. Being on an interview, you know what I mean, with cameras in my face, that wasn't my thing. So I expressed my love through being a sound selector now.
Omega Disco.
All right. So me and a bunch of my brethren them now, we formed this sound, you know, and I was a selector. Yeah, man, bad selector to a scratch. Delano them now have nothing for me them time.
So would you say Renaissance was the inspiration for that song at that time there?
They were one of the inspirations. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. So, you know, a lot of like weekends, like a lot of lunch money we save up on, you know, every Friday or so we're going to Aquarius or Shelly Power, wheresoever, go buy the records and thing. And, you know, that was a great experience. You know, I mean, again, looking back, that was probably one of my early experiences with understanding crowd control. Understand how to read the crowd. And, you know what I mean? You go deep into song structure too, you know. So that's where I get the name. My selector name was Cappuccino.
That was, okay. Where did you even get that name, Cappuccino? Was it from Wu-Tang?
No.
Okay.
No. But I was a big Wu-Tang fan though. But yeah. I don't know, I think them just give me that name as a selector. Just work with
it sounds like it sounds like a thing.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
Let's work with it. So
Cappuccino.
So work with it. And
okay, so then you're playing song and stuff. When did you actually discover that you could use your voice, either sing, rap, DJ, or whatever?
All right, so during that time now, remember hip-hop was a big, super influential in Jamaica, because at this point now everybody have cable now, and Rap City and the basement and all of these
106
things.
in Park.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And me, myself, especially somebody who travels a lot to the States, etc. You know what I mean? Hip-hop was a big influence. The Wu-Tangs, the Biggies, the Nas, the Jay-Z's, you know what I mean? All these greats. So at first, I found myself like, especially with Wu-Tang, I try like decode, because you know them lyrics kind of complex. So I find myself like a decode, like literally I write out the lyrics. You know what I mean? Till I find myself I write my own lyrics. But this is rap now, hip-hop.
It was
you know
hip-hop.
Yeah. So I'm start write raps. I'm like, okay, cool. But again, I'm not sure if, you know, I might think this as a profession. So one day now, this brethren, Ella, one of my father brethren, he's a producer, Barry Clark. You know what I mean? He have a label, BCR Records. So on my free time or on weekends when I have school and thing, I play the capacity of like him apprentice. So, you know, him in the studio, I would be the one to reel on him 24-track tape. And because I was beginning to show interest in production too. So, you know, me I reel on him 24-track tape and reel it off. And, you know, so one day he was working with this artist, Brian, that's actually Papa San's brother.
His brother, okay.
Bad singer. Yeah. He's actually now a part of Third World. Maurice Gregory, yeah, man. Bad singer. So he was working on a track with him, this song named Joy. So there was an empty 8-bar space. And Barry, now the producer, he was like, yo, you know, with a tough, yeah, so if a rapper would have do a 8-bar, so me now with my presumptuous self, me say, someone can do it?
Yeah.
And, you know, him look at me like shocked because he don't know me as somebody with that interest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I say, all right, got through. So, you know what I mean? Pen something real quick and fast and record it. And that was my first official recording, first time hearing myself back on. You know what I mean? That's where the light bulb kick in now and say, yeah, okay, this can be something.
But as a rapper, though?
As a rapper.
But did that song actually come out?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it did, but, you know, after that, eventually, you know, recording more songs, because all of this taking place now in Big Ship, so our home studio, you know what I mean? And again, Barry Clark, he was my producer at the time, you know what I mean? And he try with me and, you know, my experiment on a lot of his productions and thing, and, you know what I mean? So, experiment, try different songs. You know what I mean? Till we link up now. Gary G and Mark Hudson, they had Stone Cold label. So they had this rhythm out now that they were working on, Rhythm of the Night.
Yes.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody brought this young aspiring artist, Kiprich, to the studio now. You know what I mean? And, you know, meet up on Riri and, you know, him hear my stuff, vice versa. I said, yo, you know, the conversation was had, yo, do something together, Riri. And
because you guys were both kids at this time here, too, so it's like the link would be...
Yeah.
Link, you're basically the same age.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And so we recorded on that rhythm, you know what I mean? Rhythm of the Night, and that song ended up being Lego the Boy, and that was my first official hit song. As a rapper.
In Jamaica.
In Jamaica.
Yeah.
So bear in mind, this is me. I'm still in figuring it out mode. You know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, in the back of my mind, I knew, honestly, within myself, this wouldn't be the end all. But I was still trying to figure it out. Figure out, you know, my sound, you know what I mean? But this was where my comfort zone was at the time. You know what I mean? So my boss as a rapper. You understand?
Lego the Boy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hit song. I'm still in a high school.
Boss. So, okay. So where was the first time you guys went to go perform that song there?
I don't remember, to be honest. Most likely somewhere local in Jamaica, where I run the rounds. I know we did couple stuff overseas. You know, we did the island run. I remember we did something in St. Kitts together. And,
Okay, so you started to fly because of this song. Well, you're flying before
Yeah, I fly
because your dad
before.
is so. But because of this song now, you're starting to fly because of this song.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, it bring demand and
Yeah.
you yourself as artist, you have to, you know what I mean, do the groundwork and run the rounds and thing.
Cappuccino.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, you know, that was that. And again, just still recording, still trying to experiment and find my sound. And at the time, my father, he had a spot in Florida from that time, you know. So, you know, holidays, we'd spend time there, and myself and Stephen. This time, Stephen now was, you know what I mean, getting deep in production.
Okay.
So at the time now, I ended up linking up and working with Slip and Slide Records in Florida. So
That's with Trina, Trick Daddy.
Yeah, so that camp was like Trick Daddy, Trina, Rick Ross, them at that time too. And you know what I mean? So that was a cool experience. I didn't really go too far with them. Reason being, I don't think musically we were on the same direction. 'Cause my thing is more, you know, lyrically deeper than what them have to offer.
Yeah, because you guys were, because that's South, that's Miami.
So that's the more dirty soul.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Vocal now, trap.
Yeah.
Trapping, you know.
It wasn't a lyrical thing.
And my thing are lyrics. No matter what me I do, are lyrics.
So you went there as a rapper from Jamaica to link with Slip and Slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
why.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so from there, you know what I mean, we're dabbling with other labels too. You know what I mean? So while being there now, I was experimenting with kind of evolving the style where I merged the rapping style now with dancehall, with DJing. Yeah. So, you know what I mean, till eventually it just transitioned to just me DJing.
Well, as we go down further, you'll understand what I'm going to say to you now.
Yeah.
You have a style, you have many styles where you sing J, but you also like rap J. That's what I call it, where you're not a rapper, but you're not DJing either. It's like a hybrid of both. You're rap J.
That's probably a good way to say it, a hybrid of both. Yeah, you're right.
Because you say the words and you could, okay, this isn't really DJing, but this isn't rapping either.
Well, guess what? I can flip the switch to any mode. You know what I mean? So whatever the production calls for, I can flip that switch in any mode.
Yeah.
So, so while, you know, my tenure there in Florida now, my father have a virgin named Homer in Florida, and him run this clothing brand named Kuya. So I bear Kuya where I beat and thing, and at the time now, remember, my transition now, so a full DJ thing. So I build a lyrics name. High grade and roots in my system. Kuya shirt, red, green, gold wristband. Boy can't stump fist this man. This man is unstoppable. Yeah. Cool. Have the song. Never recorded it and thing. So, again, at the time, Stephen was, you know what I mean, heading full force in production. So, we're gone back to Jamaica now and, you know what I mean, all out production now. And so, Stephen came with this rhythm now, Dutch Master. Yeah, what's the name of that rhythm? Nice rhythm. Myself was on it. You know, a couple of other local artists. As far as bigger names, Davil was hot at that time.
Okay.
You had Future Fambo and singing melody. And funny enough, during that session, at the end of it, Fambo was there, you know what I mean, in the night, and Future Troubles at the time, actually. You know what I mean? And Stephen I say, yo, I have to wrap up now because I have school in the morning. And Fambo say, yo, you have school? I say, yo, how much?
Yeah.
Fambo say, and you do all of this? No, man, you're the genius, man. Stephen the genius. So that's how we got that name.
Okay.
The genius. So Fambo, Future Troubles, gave Stephen that name. Yeah, so Dutch Master, you know what I mean? Go to get, you know, little airplay and
And this came out under the Big Ship label.
Big Ship.
So then this is now where the ship is sailing now, as in, because it was, Freddie had it before, as in, he had the big man, them on it himself.
Yeah.
But now this is the younger youth, them taking off into the dancehall world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So following up the Dutch Master now was a cartoon rhythm.
Yes.
Right, so the cartoon rhythm now, I would credit Kurt Riley as the DJ who brought that rhythm. So much so, I can't remember how we got introduced to him, but immediately, there's a mutual respect. At the time, Stephen was working on 2 rhythms simultaneously. So there was a cartoon, and there was, I guess what you'd call a reggae or one-drop rhythm called 1-2. So both of those were voicing up at the same time. So Kurt, really loved those rhythms, especially the cartoon. So much so that even prior to the final production, so Kurt will take like a 15-minute out-time, prime-time radio slot, and just play the instrumental alone. And I remix some song on it, and every minute, yo, no voice no more song on it, we voice 2 songs on it, the next day or the next week, he might give it 15 minutes, he might play the 2 songs, then 3 more song voice on it, he might fit them in, and that's how that rhythm bust now, and artists start hearing about it. So the rhythm start get really popular, so suck up the rhythm there, voice up. So the whole heap of people, us, Movado, them, a young Movado was on that.
He was on that rhythm there.
Yeah, Predator at the time, you don't know Predator at them time.
Yes, he was the one that was hot.
You have Lexus, them, you have General B, them, you have Vegas, you have New Kids, you have RDX, you have Wayne Marshall, you have a bad song. A whole heap of people. We shot a medley video for it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the start of people identifying, say, yo, this little youth, Stephen the Genius, something. He must have something.
Yeah.
Because it was way left and way different from what everybody was doing.
You guys, via him, introduced a hard sounding dance hall rhythms at that time there.
Yeah.
The rhythms them weren't as hard until Steven came along and introduced that style into dance hall.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, so so while that was happening now, Kurt Riley had a rhythm he was working on called the Ruler. That was a one drop, a lover's rock rhythm.
Yes.
So Kurt invited me to be a part of that rhythm, and I did a song called Girl Them Straight. For the girl them straight, we just can't wait. For the girl them straight. Bad song. You understand? So while that was happening, so like I say, cartoon or the hot rhythm, it changed now from us seeking artists for this rhythm to artists that come find we for the rhythm. So Nico Bam Bam, family of Stone Love now, him live like, I would have said maybe a 10-minute or less drive from us. So, we always have that close relationship. So it was Nico who brought Delly Ranx to the studio now.
Okay.
With the intention of hopefully getting him on that rhythm.
The cartoon rhythm.
The cartoon rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you don't know him bringing me in. All right, cool. More the merrier. Him record on the rhythm, and him also record on the 1-2 rhythm too. You know what I mean? And our first introduction was, and I want to word this the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fan of my work.
Okay.
So our first introduction was, yeah man, you name Chino, you sing For the Girl Them Straight on Kurt rhythm. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, he was already familiar with me. You know what I mean? All right, cool. So, and he also lived in close proximity to the studio too. So as a result of that, the link start make, you know what I mean, more frequent and consistent. Cool. So we form a little bridgingship, so to speak. Seeing? So yeah, from there, I'm just there and working on, he had the conversation with Stephen, expressed to Stephen he wanted Stephen to make a rhythm for him for him to produce.
Okay.
Fine, no problem. So Stephen, so backtrack, what I can tell you about Stephen from ever since as a youth. You know, when you'll get your holiday money and thing, you know what I mean? Where the typical youth that take the money for buy video games or clothes or new
toys and all of those things.
Stephen take fee money to invest in instruments and sounds.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? Him stay building up him sound bank and upgrading instruments and software and everything. So, cool. So, homeboy, you know, express him or Stephen make the rhythm for him. So, that time come around now. So, Stephen doing what he does, load up him sounds now and, you know what I mean? I met the rhythm. So, while Stephen I build the rhythm, we're all in the studio collectively together. So, while Stephen I build the rhythm, me a DJ the song when I tell him I build from Florida. So because him already declared that him want the rhythm name Red Bull and Guinness.
Okay, so then that was the name of the rhythm from jump before it even actually built.
Yeah, man. Red Bull and Guinness. So at the time we had some sister in the link, them, you know, them have a independent clothing line where, you know, them what try it was called Bingy. So you don't know, we always endorse and support our people. So while Steve now build the rhythm, me a DJ my lyrics. Red Bull and Guinness in my system. Bingy shirt, red, green, gold wristband. Boy can't kick, fuck with this man. This man is unstoppable. So, hombre here, me a DJ it and say, yo, that bad, yo, me and you for do it. No problem. So that's how we did that song together.
The Red Bull and Guinness. Because when I spoke to Delly Ranx, he told me straight goods. He didn't write a line in that song. That was all you came with the song together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's how that came about.
Red Bull. And then remember, because you recorded some song from Lego the Boy, which was 99.
Yeah.
And then Red Bull, I think, was 06, or was that 05? I think it was either 05 or 06 that rhythm there came on.
Yeah, I know it was early 2000s, I'm not sure, but somewhere in that mix.
Yeah. So then we're talking about 4 to 6 years before you got back another hit song.
Yeah.
Because remember, you came out as a rapper. Cappuccino. But the trick with even Lego the Boy, a lot of times when you heard that song, they wouldn't play it down to the rap part, you know. Because you had to watch the music video
because
to really
remember my verse was like what? Maybe way down
it was like verse, chorus, verse again, chorus, and then I think you came in.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So then now with Red Bull and Guinness, it's you and Delly Ranx doing it together. Now is where we see you as the artist this time here now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what I mean? I see myself as a student of the game. So I always try to study the inner workings and, you know what I mean, with everybody before me. And one thing I realized that as a dancehall artist especially, you need a tag line or a tag phrase. So that's how I come up with the, yo, you know, so, you know, I incorporate that in that song and with practically every other song during that time too. You know what I mean? So, cool. The song take off. I do what I do. Big song, big rhythm. And, you know what I mean? We have the song together, so I run road together. And, you know what I mean? More whiling together. It become more of those artists and artists. Well, from where I sat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It became deeper than an artist link. It became more of family. You know what I mean? I consider the brethren as family. You know what I mean? And so we link and we take on the road together, and you know what I mean, we met the rounds them and all of that. And you know, during that whole process, like I remember at least 3 different people from the industry draw me one side and say, yo, see you on umbrella link and not do, but just careful. Him used to in our camp, him mix up, him bad mind, him this, that, and the third. And me as a man, I'm not the easiest person for invite people in my inner circle and trust people, so I always will have my guard and my antenna up regardless. However, I have Umbre as my family, so I still have a game the, but I take what everybody say and have it in the back of my mind.
But
I
you're
still have
still
a game the benefit of the
moving.
doubt.
Yeah.
Like a game the opportunity to prove them right or prove them wrong. So keep it moving. So yeah, we work on, you know what I mean? More rhythms I drop, Stephen I drop more rhythms and you know what I mean, my advice for other producers too and you know what I mean, more and more my sound I get out there. So while Red Bull and Guinness was running now, the hot spot in Kingston, the hot club was Quad nightclub.
Yes, man.
Right? So Quad top 4 levels. So CJ Liquid was one of the resident DJs. He had a Wednesday night, thing, I think named Wet Wednesdays. Yeah. And you have Alric and Boy, they played on another floor. Right? So Quad was a hot spot. And then, you know, we there every night and, you know, on the campaign trail and, you know, say, yeah, Red Bull and Guinness are the highlight of the night. So one night, I'm almost certain it was a New Year's Eve night. Me and Stephen alone was in the studio and I came up with this idea and I say, yo, we want a theme song for the club, an anthem for the club.
Yeah.
But more on the rhythm, it have a similar groove to Red Bull and Guinness. So Stephen, again, doing what Stephen does, I load up him sound, and I come up with the lyrics. In the club, But how me so I build out the lyrics and everything. But the intro, how me envision it, I want it be like a walkthrough. So like people are envision like just driving on the New Kingston strip. Nuts further, you see the jerkman them on the side. You see the taxi man them, you see this, that before you actually enter inside of
the
the
whole
club.
story.
So I was trying to get the address. So two of my brethren them where I know them supposed to come, I never want to say the wrong thing. May I try call them, but then the phone, there was no 4G or 5G. You understand? So normally when the clock strike 12 on New Year's, the phone line them jam up. So I now get nobody. So I had to turn to the yellow pages.
Yeah.
Look for Quad nightclub, I say Trinidad Terrace. So when you hear the intro, you hear, in the club. Yeah, man, which part we go? Yeah, man, run a Trinidad Terrace, run the road from Asylum there, so. All right, Voodoo Lounge, Oxygen, the Jerkman and the taxi them. In the club, just link with them, me roll in with me linky them. When we there, in the club, we are listen red. All right, so that voice now. So we gave it to Liquid. Because obviously we make it with the intention for it to be like a theme song, a vibe for the club. So Liquid, I beat it, and eventually I play it hard on radio. And it bust, and I say, wait, okay then. And then we give him the dub. Then everybody on the station start play it and we end up having to do a generic dub feed. Then the other radio stations start request it and
So this was only one song on the rhythm at this time.
one song. So
Yeah.
eventually now Stephen and Liquid had the conversation where Stephen, I guess, offered him and say, yo, if you want the rhythm, you can produce it. Which was a no-brainer because a Liquid solely, we can credit Liquid for him bust that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, was how 12 gauge rhythm was birthed. It was, you know what I mean? Came about.
So it really came out as a single
It was
first.
a single.
Yeah.
Single first.
So, okay, so because remember, if a lot of people don't know, 12 gauge rhythm sounds so almost identical to Red Bull and Guinness.
But
here.
that was intentional.
Yeah.
Because that's what I wanted. That's how I told Stephen to create it.
And then Liquid now, he produced a whole of the rhythm them now. We had on the Bounty, Idonia,
Yeah, man.
the Mavado,
Yeah.
pure crazy artist.
Yeah. So Stephen was the recording and the mixing engineer and the whole juggling, but it just came out as Liquid H2O production. Bad rhythm, bad juggling. Big up Liquid.
But how similar it is to Red Bull and Guinness, did this cause a problem with you and Delly at this point here because the rhythms were so similar?
He had like 2 songs on the rhythm. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it wasn't that well. I didn't, to my understanding, no, that didn't create any issue. You know what I mean? But, you know, the more that I go on is the more people get familiar with my sound. Again, in the club, boss before the juggling. So at this point now, people really cement and identify with Chino sound now.
Yeah.
From them here, yo, them now for mistake, them know what time it is and know
Chino.
who it is. You understand? So while that are going, Steve not drop other rhythms too. You have stick up rhythm, you have breaking news rhythm. Breaking news, by the way, was if my memory serves me right, that was the first production of Stephen that Cartel recorded on.
Okay.
Yeah. And never forget, this was my first interaction with Cartel. So I'm in the studio, I say, yo, are you named Chino? Are you say, and him a DJ but my song from Breaking News. I say, yo, you say, them never know say man a top on our wrist, very this man from Japan can go back a Far East and him a decode me rhythm. Yeah, man, this man a Japan, him can go back a Far East. And I'm kind of taken aback because, you know what I mean, Cartel a big artist for me, especially at that time. And I expect like me, one, for come on film radar, and two, you know, him so invested in my lyrics.
And
so
the
much
lyrics were, he could tell you what it is that you're spitting.
Yeah, but I saw it go, like real recognize real, and you know what I mean, lyricists respect other lyricists. You know what I mean? So that goes. So yeah, so you know what I mean, I represent on the rhythms and the thing them, and my name just a grow. Everything just a build and just a grow, and you know.
So when did the song Protected come into the fold now?
No man, that's a way down.
That's way down.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not ready to get there yet then. So bam, you have the tune them on the 12 gauge. Enough things are going on. So then what happens from here now in your career?
I mean, just more songs, more rhythms. You have like party rhythm. Please don't bring no stress, go make we rave all night. When me say rave, we are, you know what I mean, enough for the girl juggling them. I mean, quite a bit. Some of it kind of blurry now. So, what you mentioned, all right, no, continue.
No, you continue.
You continue. So, you mentioned, you asked me, you know what I mean, if 12 gauge caused the fallout in me and homeboy. So, again, like I said to you, my thing started to grow. My name started out there, people start to identify my talent. You understand? Me and Delly, we still are on the rounds and at the camp. You understand? A family thing, we don't see it no less. You understand? Everybody play them position, but as far as me, no, a family. I pick up and start hear back some bad energy from him, and so much so that, you know, him I go to people where I am closer to than him, people where him know through me. You know what I mean? And some hater vibes. You know what I mean? Straight up. Not for mince it. On some hater vibes. Like, you know, it's kind of narcissism where, you know what I mean, you project your hatred and disguise it as, oh, yo, he might get hype home because me
Blame you, but that's not really the problem. Got you.
you know what I mean? So I reach a point where I cut him off. Because me as a man, I take loyalty very serious. You see, if I rock with you, like, me I rock with you till the wheels fall off, my friend. You understand? And if you betray the loyalty, then I take it serious. Yeah. Eventually, yeah, we talk it out and we fix back things. See? But obviously, you don't know, me have one eye open this time. Because you show me who you are or who you potentially can be.
And you were getting the warning them from before, so then everything just came full circle.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So the work goes on, you know what I mean? This time the camp super hot, like literally.
Because you guys had formed the big ship camp this time, which would have been you, Genius, Brahma, Aladdin, Stein. Was Assassin in the camp too?
So, I mean, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say Stein was, I would say he was more of an affiliate of the camp.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as camp, Stein was more alliance.
Yes, but because I spoke to Stein, and if I remember good, Stein was saying, yeah, he was part of Big Ship, yes, But I guess probably not the core.
Yeah, he wasn't the core, but he was in the mix. Because you have to remember, bro, like I said to you, literally the whole industry at any given day you wake up and sometimes I feel sorry for Stephen as a little youth. Like you literally, and remember the studio is where the house is. So as you wake up, the whole industry are bleached by your outside and everybody will try to get the same thing done.
Yeah, that's wild.
You understand? So the whole camp and, you know what I mean, it breed a lot of creativity, it breed a lot of camaraderie. And that's, so you'll hear a lot of recent talks where they must say, boy, or the no music versus the music back then. And so that have a lot to do with it as far as I'm concerned.
But that would make sense because remember, everybody's connected in one place. It's going to breed camaraderie, but it's also going to breed envy and jealousy also. But everything you could think is going to be...
The whole community aspect, so it draw out greatness out of everybody.
For
iron
sure.
sharpen iron. So
because we're competitive
We know
now.
say, yo, muscle of vice pan Stephen, you already know muscle I go hard. So me have to bring my A game and, you know what I mean? So friendly competition too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that kind of vibe. And so, yeah, we just working the camp hot. The songs them just a churn out, the rhythm them. We mentioned, all of that, the rave all night. You have Good Life rhythm, I forget the cream, all of that. So then now, there was, so Live Up Records now, just start them, farm them in production. You know what I mean? Close, we're close with them. You can, I would say, more of a family relationship. You know what I mean? So Stephen was behind the production and the full juggling and things. And first rhythm, I don't remember the name of the rhythm, but my song was like the title track, it named Live Up.
Yeah. You're always getting the titles, bro.
Yeah, so, I mean, bad juggling, Cartel and Sprague and I do
And in the link with all of these great names here is you're recording and getting highlighted on these rhythms here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so, you know what I mean, so that was a good one. So, okay, yeah. I catch back my train of thought now. Yeah, so Live Up Rhythm now. So the rhythm done voice up, gone out. That is that. So one of the producers in Live Up Records, them reach out like after the fact on the tail end when the rhythm done gone out. So yo, Dan artist one voice, Dan Corleon artist, Munga one voice on the rhythm. So you know what I mean, Stephen was like, because so for backtrack a little bit now, so Dan, you don't know, Dan obviously him was before Stephen, you know what I mean, and Dan is one of those where, you know what I mean, Stephen and all of us would look up to. We weren't that close, like he in the earlys, I remember he came to ship with Marshall when Marshall was doing some work, but we weren't that close, we were more close with Cool Face. Cool Face was like bridging. Cool Face are one of the youth where always encourage me and I say, yo, you're the baddest lyricist, Ray, and him literally I take my promo CD them and I go road with them. You understand? So when them say, yo, voice, Dan artist, Steve was like, yeah man, of course, with pleasure, cause you're one family.
Yeah.
Cool. So, we eventually got the file. Them time the files come on some DVD.
Yeah.
See it? But Steve, you don't know him busy, him kind of swamped with work, so I never immediately get to check out the file for can mix it. So, never forget one night now, I come in off of the road, I'm tired, and Stephen were on the board next bridging them, and I was in the little seat behind the board and kind of doze little. So Stephen put in the file now. Just will listen to the song if I have an idea before him start mix it on. One bad man song and him a DJ thought, and then the verse. I can't quote you the exact lyrics. Him say something like bust it round a big ship and all Stephen run guard. So
Yes.
me a half sleep, half waking on. Me get up out of my sleep. Like me I say, huh? And the look on everybody's face confused because again, remember,
This is supposed to be on the rhythm.
as far as we concerned, not even outside of that, as far as all of us are concerned, we and the whole Dan camp, we are family. So we play about the song at least a half dozen times. We tried, like maybe we are hear something different. Maybe how we are hear it, that is not the intention behind it because it does not make no sense.
Yeah. Why?
So, lo and behold, the man did Stephen pan the rhythm. So, of course, man them page him about it now. So I end up have to re-record it and change the line. So I re-record it and change the line to, if them violate big ships, even gonna rise. Cool. That is that. Stephen still end up mix up the song and, keep it moving. As a matter of fact, I wasn't there. The mayor said him himself came to the studio and drop off the rhythm, the file, to my brethren. He don't even know who Stephen is or what Stephen look like. Drop it off to my brethren. Yo, are you named Stephen? Yo, respect brother Ray, and give him the file. Boom, that was that. So, we never follow it up or pay it no mind. We just know, say, all right, obviously, something exists, but we don't really follow it up. We don't have time for that. Like, keep it pushing. You know what I mean? That's how them thing they go. Remember, I was at this this event, Spectrum.
Yes. Big show that used to keep.
Yeah, man, Spectrum, man, my daddy. And Alain was built to perform. So at that time now, she was in the camp, Dan Corleon them camp. You know what I mean? And Cool Face was there. I guess he was in the capacity, like playing her tracks or whatever. So the first me I see him in the age is that, brother, me is a man, me not like embarrassment. I choose me hail them wisely. See? But I'm bridging, me not see him in the ages and me give him one of them, yo, brother, the man, give me one of them feet, no look no way, hail there. I say, all right, cool, but I still never overthink it. So, me I say, in my mind, I say, because again, me not see where no energy exists. So, me probably I overthink it. So, I said, sure, him probably in a pre-show mode.
So, he's concentrated.
Or probably I got two issues with the promoter. Like, I'm an artist, so me understand how them thing they go. So, probably one of them thing there.
But it's in your mind. You didn't pay it no mind, but it's in your mind here. So.
But honestly, I never, you know what I mean? I never I think too deep of it. You understand? Keep it pushing. So eventually we start hear some little subliminal things, like, you know what I mean? Some songs are drop with some little subliminal thing and some little word show and some little subtle mention, some ship mention and some this, that mention and so, okay, and we still now follow it up. And then the last straw was one song with them drop. I think it was Munga and Busy. And him say, when me bust my gun, them ship sink. So I say, all right, enough is enough. Yeah, man. Enough is enough.
It's blatant at this
Enough
time.
is enough.
Yeah.
So anything I'm on depend on that to depend to. Well, me personally, because you don't know. My stance is me I defend my little brother. That's how I see it.
100%.
My little sibling. You know what I mean? You can't, if you diss my brother, you diss me.
100%.
You understand? So that's when Stephen came up with Dark Again Rhythm. Yeah. So everybody in a war mode now. At this time, Cartel and Alliance split too, I believe. So
At this time here too.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean, Cartel did kind of get a raw deal too from the industry, like almost on some lockout kind of vibe. So, you know what I mean, him have to get aggressive pan things, so him come with Empire Arm. Them want to war me pan the rhythm there. Don't you jump out and risk, because you don't know, him and Munga have them their separate issues too, whatever that was. You know what I mean? So don't you. That's when Stephen took that song, sampled it at the intro. When we bust my gun, them ship sick, and Donia did Empty.
Yo.
And I do a song named In a Them Place.
So this was straight war at this
Yeah,
time,
man.
you know.
Yeah. Because they were push it and I push it like, come on, brother, we're on a weak fence at some point. You know?
You have to defend your
Yeah,
team.
we have to defend with thing, brother.
Yeah, man. I remember that. That was Big Ship versus freaking Don Corleon. Them, yes, bro. Boss, you see those early 2000s? That vibe in the music was so wild. But again, you had to be plugged in a way to really see certain moves that were being made, you know. Everything wasn't completely obvious at first, you know.
Yeah.
You had to really, okay, that's what's happening over there. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, that just start a big back and forth now and it turn out into what them consider clash. So, song a drop, 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 song a respond. You know what I mean? All of that thing. And it just reach a point where I stop in my tracks and I do like what I call a mirror check. Like I say, yo, where do you... Like, this is me, I cuss myself. I say, yo, where I do? You know what I mean? Because when I initially decided to enter music professional, I knew the type of career I wanted.
Yeah.
In the long run, I'm always a forward thinker. So, I know, say, if I start music, I know where I wanted to see myself when I'm 30 or in my 40s or in my 50s, etc. Like, I want a solid career, like, kind of similar to what my father have.
For sure.
So, I say, yo, we never sign up for the music, for the this, for being a clash artist. And so at that moment, I decide say, yo, from here on, I'm not do no more, I'm not waste no more time, energy, studio time, light bill, and voice no more clash song. See, anything as far as war concerned, when we buck up a road, make we handle it any way we see it fit. But you're not gonna get no more song from me. And that was one of the greatest life and career choices I've ever made.
Was this how From Morning came into the play?
No, From Morning not coming into the play.
It still didn't come into the play yet.
No.
Yeah.
Are those generic songs. Yeah. Funny enough, that time, Chino McGregor was out.
Yes.
And we shot with a Rude Boy song. But that was not a clash song.
Yeah.
Step out to the chrome and it can't stick. Melt them down just like plastic. Cause the thing then tall. Seeing, and we find the girl song them and I forget the cream, good life riddim. Enough money in a pocket, the youth, you know what I mean? And at this point now, Steven started to focus more, for me, on singles. So that's when we did Call Me Name. Y'all let me call me name. So I say, okay, all right. So the girl let me run with me. All right, say less.
So, okay, before we even completely leave the clash segment here, what did Freddie McGregor think about the clash happening with Big Ship? Because remember, he didn't build his label to be into this.
So here I know.
Thing, you know.
Here I know. His thing was always from the get-go, like him trying not to get too involved in whatever we do. You know what I mean? But yeah, obviously, as far as like the clashing vibes, yeah, he'll always, you know, discourage that. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? You don't know my father G2. So, you know what I mean? He will send out him son on the opposing side to say, yo, no one I do. You know what I mean? But outside of that, is not a person who would try to be too involved. Kind of give us the space to do our thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Figure it out.
Whether I agree or not. You know what I mean?
You guys figure this out.
Yeah. And again, that was my mindset. Like, I'm more thinking along the lines of legacy. Like, me I do this, you know what I mean? Me I think of the bigger picture.
That's where the
legacy.
merch came into play, you know.
Exactly. So, and again, like I said, that was one of the greatest decisions I've made. So, the hits them just are forward. Girl, them a call with name. Shot. Follow up that with Rough It Up. Girl, bring it, come, let me rough it up for ya. Yeah, so, you know, the hits are rolling. Girl, them a call with name. Shot. You know what I mean? Follow that up with Rough It Up. Girl, bring it, come, let me rough it up for ya. You understand? And so during that time now, this was the final straw with me and Homeboy now. So Prior to that, now again the bad energy, and you can see, you know what I mean, the little bitter vibes with him, and he had a rhythm now that Jordan made for him that he was producing. I think I was on that rhythm too, I don't remember the name of it. Bear in mind, at this time, him still in at the camp. You know, I mean, even with the so-called war and the clash, him himself jumping at it, and I say, yo, yeah, man, I want Chip and Ray, and, you know, I mean, didn't invite him, because I mean, to be honest and with no disrespect or shade, I don't see him as a lyrical artist per se, you know what I mean, that's capable of taking on a clash like that, you know what I mean, so, whereas I don't would have jump in and it makes sense, but him take it up on himself and say that, cool. So him produce this rhythm, and then him voice mung up on the rhythm. All right, fine, but I'm not so bad, yeah, you want a big man. But then him never just voice any song. Him voice a song on it where him a throw shade at Stephen. So that to me are the ultimate red flag. So that's when I cut him off again for the second and final time. Yeah. And him continue.
Why would he do that? Why would he, if he's in the camp, why would he voice an opponent, up against a camp?
So somebody asked him about it, and his response to them was, it's just business. So to me, it's just business. So that mean for tell me, say, so for the right price, you can set up my life. For the right price, you can sell me out. Me don't want nobody around me where operate and think them with.
And you're not vibrating on business. You're vibrating on family.
On family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it for me. Like, you know what I mean? We cut him off, him come back round. One day him forward round in the yard, and my father was there. So him got to my father, and I guess him assume, say, you know what I mean? When him got to my father would be the voice of reasoning for help fix things. And old man make him no straight, say, yo, them own a big man, so anything them say, that is that. You know what I mean? So that was the end of that relationship, or that link right there. You know what I mean? But again, this was somebody who we consider family. This was somebody who, you know what I mean, we have
you
history.
Didn't see it
this
from
was
business.
somebody who we took on the road with us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We carry him on tour with us, England, Japan, etc. You understand? But anyway, that was that. So it's them a rolling now. So at this time, I was working on my sophomore Japan exclusive album.
Yes, because it's 2 you put out for Japan.
Yeah, so the first one was in about 07. That was called Unstoppable. That had on like Red Bull and Guinness and all of them set a song there. So I was in process of working on the second one now. So recorded a couple songs, and Stephen gave me this rhythm now for what we now know as Protected. Gave me the instrumental. But where the chorus part come in now, Stephen hummed the melody. No lyrics, just the melody. You understand? So at that time I was super busy too, because the work on, and you know what I mean, I had a couple endorsement deals too under my belt, like Coca-Cola and
Nestle.
Yeah, all these things.
Mothers and all of those
super
things.
active, and I would get to it immediately. So I remember one day, we were in the room, me and Stephen, and we had a little. No, Stephen had his laptop out, and he was showing me. There was this one of them music blog site, and we were the topic of discussion. So you know what I mean. Most people on it were saying, "Yeah, man, yo, the youth them are going good. I love how youth them are going. Yo, Stephen, yo, Chino, and then of course you have some naysayers now where the man them a beat with them and say, oh no man, I just do them father named Freddie, and man them a deal with wicked. And it made me feel some type of way, because especially knowing the genuine hard work we put in, you know what I mean, on the grind to make this thing work, and his talent, and the last name, nothing or nothing like that. So eventually Stephen left and me alone in the room and me lay down on the bed. Me have the little, them time they have the little, the little set.
Yes.
Where you have the CD,
portables, yes, man.
the CD and the cassette part. So I put in the CD, press play, lie down on the bed, the rhythm start. Chun, 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 chun. The first thing come to my mind. Hear what them say. Him only boss because him ride off for the boss name. When me just a boss, me never advertise my last name. Me no, that's how that song came about, out of anger.
You could tell because that seems like one of your more deeper personal songs where whatever's on my mind, on my heart, on my chest, I'm going to say it now. I'm putting this out right now.
Precisely. So the second verse, that was the first verse I wrote. Mm-hmm. But then listening back to it, sonically, to my ears, I knew this couldn't be an opening verse. I needed an opening verse. So that's when I came with the next verse now. And that was, again, everything when I got through at the time. Mm-hmm. Big up to the friends, the fans, the fakers, and the enemies. Forever keep my brother Craig Dennis in my memories. Think me no remember no for them come with agenda. Say them got you still them chat you. Tell me now, what kind of friend them is?
Yeah.
So all the way here, me I talk about another song there, real life, everything when I got through in real time at the time. And I just express it through music. Again, I'm not a very talkative person, but you get my talkative side through music, through lyrics. You understand? So that was how that came about. So when...
How I knew you guys were wicked in that song, something as simple as they want to slow us down, and you guys slow down that part. I said, yo, that man, yeah, mad, bro. These guys are next level altogether.
So when it's time for record the song now, recorded the verses now, and so it's time for the chorus. So again, remember, it's just a melody. So Stephen in the studio, I'm in the booth. So Stephen, I press the top back in the studio, and he's giving me the words for the chorus melody. Through them bad mind, them a try stop with glory, and then they never know we protected. So him record it through the top back, so I could listen it back and hear it back. So me say, yo, me take off the headphones and come out and say, yo, me not sing this, you are sing this, Bear in mind, at this time, Stephen never really interested in an artist thing.
Yeah.
And FYI, Stephen was an artist before he was a producer.
You guys basically switched because you basically were doing production and all these stuff first. You play instruments and all that. He was the artist, and then it switched like this. You're the artist, he's a producer.
Yeah. So Stephen, I said, no, man. And I said, bro, yeah, listen to this, and you are singing this. So what you hear on the record is pretty much a demo of Stephen's voice. Through the top back, just add some harmonies around it. You know what I mean? So Stephen's idea now was he want to release this as a single. And I was against it. And I said, no, brother, we can't drop this. This can't work for dancehall. Because again, I had this song as an album filler.
Okay, this was just to express your ideas and thoughts, put it on an album. Who finds it, finds it. Okay, cool.
But a single, remember, during this time, hardcore gun song and daggering around dancehall. So in my mind, like there was no space for this for people. People don't have no time for listening to deep, thought-provoking 16-bar verse right now. Them just want to hear quick daggering and, you know what I mean? Stephen said, no, man, it can't work. And we go back and forth. And I said, no. I say, yo, just trust me. I say, all right, sir, anything you say. Him release it and watch how the Almighty work now. Release it and, radio get some spins and, nothing too great, but it's in a little rotation. But now, Broadcasting Commission stepped in now and them say, yo, any song with edits can't play upon radio. Any daggering song.
Daggering, no.
So, most of the DJs on the radio, by default, they were forced to withdraw, I would say like a good 80% of one of them juggling. So now, when you do that now, you have to play songs. See, we have some songs here where them nice. Them not no edit, but them still no water down. Them still have the street edge too. Some nice song from Chino and Ladden and DeMarco and Bugle and Charlie Blacks. Okay, so protected bus.
That's
radio bus protected.
Because of the band. You really this is where you got to find your way in. Yeah.
Respect to Broadcasting Commission, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So even when you watch back that visual, you see Nico Bam Bam's in it, Beanie Man is in it,
Yeah, man.
Freddie's in it,
Yeah, man.
Tifa's in it, and I'm pretty sure there's one or two more people that I didn't see, but all of those people are in the video.
Yeah, because it was just a vibe at the time, and fresh on the heels to Bridging Craig Dennis. Like, his career was on the just about to take off, you know what I mean? Full force on him pass. So, that first line mentioning him was necessary.
And that whole vibe of the song, as you said, him passing, that song sounded like almost, not really a dedication, but it didn't have a hard feel to it. So it worked. You understand?
Yeah, even to that day, like, like a lot of sound man, when them link me for that song, upon dub, the amount of memorial, my voice that song there.
You see? Yeah, man.
Yo, read memorial, how much for it protected pan dub? You know what I mean?
Because it has that type of, it's an introspective type of song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was a song where kind of stamp me and make people identify, say, yeah, all right, this youth is not your average. Yeah, that youth have something different, something unique, something special. Yeah. So that was the song where kind of catapult everything. You understand? From there, I did Sting. The first I did, that was my first year I did Sting. Shell it. Seeing? I did two Stings. That one and the following year, the Gully Gaza one.
You were on that 08 Sting there.
Bro, I was like, and not for shade nobody, I was like one out of a handful of artists we get 4 corner forward from start to finish. That Sting was one of the roughest. Sting in general is a rough show, but that Sting, brother, like, I kid you not, 80% of who they on the lineup, them get clap and boo.
Because the people them wanted the cartel and war. That's what they wanted, bro.
And that part of what my judge too for make me know, say, all right, yes, the people them love me for true. So much so,
stand up in this.
So much so, because I think artists who perform before me, them get boo and thing on. So when my time now, the band I chime up now and I do the fanfare and Leng there beside me now, I'm nervous. He must say, yo, let's get them 2 1 move. I'm dead with laugh. I say, everything good, Leng, man. But me know it in myself, me know say, I cakewalk this. Because, all the shows I do leading up. You know what I mean? And hit songs give confidence too. And me run out with Protected. Ching, 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 ching. I do my fanfare from off stage. Who God bless, no man curse. One thing with me with band, me run rehearsal joke, me rehearse with my band. So when I run out, Protected. John World, big up to the friends of... Sure.
But you see, back to you, remember when I told you you're like a rap J? You understand now when you listen to Protected, that's almost like you're rapping but DJing. That's why I said rap J.
Yeah. So after that, the thing just gets super busy. So From Morning came out now in the summer while I was on tour. So myself, my father, Ladden, I believe, were on tour. So we did a 3-month run, a month and a half in Europe, a month and a half in the US. So you don't know while I'm up on the road, I check in on the ground and everybody I say, yo, you have the biggest song where I run Jamaica right now. And I say, hey, gas me up. Yeah, it probably, I get some play, but I don't know about no biggest song or a run place thing. Yeah. So during that time I was signed to Coca-Cola. So Nat Geo, they have this documentary that every year they visit a different country and they feature the culture, the music, So Coca-Cola was a part of that. So they flew me out from Europe on one of my half weeks where I had like a couple days with no shows. So they flew me into Jamaica to film that with Nat Geo. So while I'm there, obviously, me a peep while going on the ground and I say, yo, that song you boss for true.
Yeah.
That song you big and I run the place for true. You know what I mean? Boom, gone back to finish my tour. Stephen drop Woman Pon Yuh Head right behind that. And again, they must say, yo, them two songs are around the whole Jamaica.
Because you're getting them back to back to back them time and all.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, that was that. Finished the tour, Ghana, Jamaica, and it was just glory from there, bro.
Yeah. No, because as I say, your style was a lot different. But you even brought up something saying that you're on the 08, the Gully Gaza sting. When the war broke out between Vibes Cartel and Movado, and remember, both of them were recording over at Big Ship. Yeah. Stephen, because you said Stephen didn't really want to get into the artist again. Your song was the first song, and then he recorded a song with Cartel, and he recorded one with Movado too, where it was just them. So what was it like now around Ship when these two are really kicking off now, and you're the big brother that has to watch out to what's going on?
But you know what, though? For us... it wasn't as tense as the immediate parties that were involved. Because one thing, despite where them have a go on, there was always that respect for my father, for the studio, and for Stephen, and for us. So it was already established, say, yo, we not business about phone thing. You know what I mean? We and Gully, good. We and Gaza, our empire at the time, we and them good. You know what I mean? That have nothing to do with we. So, yeah, there are numerous times when them buck up together and them have to just keep the peace. Bear in mind, a man just shoot off a man around the road earlier, but them know say, yo, when you reach a ship, you have to hold it because you can't violate around a ship. And I mean, even outside of them, just generally, like a big part of the energy we hear with the songs with all the artists recording is just the atmosphere. Is more like a home vibe when the artists them and I'm sure any artist that ever recorded around there, especially around that time, them can confirm this. It's just a home vibe. You don't feel like, you know, you're in a standard studio setting where people are bother you and harass you. It's just a home vibe. You're there, you work, randomly a plate of food reach you. Yeah. If you smoke about a herb reach you randomly, like, you know what I mean? It's just love. You know, so that was that. So, yeah, and that helped with the chemistry with Stephen and Cartel and with Stephen and Movado because there was the mutual respect and trust. They trusted Stephen to lead.
So even when the war is going on and they're warring and they're still coming to record, they don't think that Stephen is going to leak what's happening in their session with the other one. So then it's really a trust factor with Stephen and Freddie and all you guys over there.
Yeah, it's a trust factor. And also Stephen is the score for this movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's a mutual beneficial partnership as well. You understand them? No, say, yo, Stephen is, you know what I mean? No pun intended. The genius behind all of this.
Yeah. No, all pun intended.
All right.
So. All right.
Yeah.
Around this time here, now a little bit after this time, you came up with another big hit. This is when you recorded your album for VP Chino.
Yeah.
And you did Driving Me Crazy with Danique.
Well, and before we got that, remember the sophomore Japan album, though, that was a huge success.
Yes, because that was from Morning. It was
so that was like the biggest selling album in the country.
Yeah. Not reggae.
Not reggae. Album, singles, ringtones at the time, etc. Like, and it kind of strange because I realized when From Morning especially came out, like, all right, most of the sounds that cut in From Morning are Japanese, and them a pay top dollar for From Morning. Okay, that's when we realized, say, okay, this song is massive over there. So when I did this album, a bonus track, I did a Japanese version of From Morning.
Yeah, so you sang it in Japanese.
I had a Japanese, big up Okamari. She helped me translate it.
Yeah.
So that was a bonus track. From morning, ole lai mai nichi hustling, tamarula teshilanai. From morning, none of them will use it, never ever change. So when we got Japan on tour, like I did a tour to support the album, it was crazy. My headline Mighty Crown them annual event. It was like 40 5,000 people. That was nuts, bro. Watch everybody like I sing every song line for line. You know what I mean? So that was a good vibe. So yeah, so that now, on the heels of that, came the VP release.
And what was that a Steven production also?
The whole album?
No, that song in particular.
Driving Me
crazy. Yeah, Drive Me Insane.
Yeah, man.
Okay, because I love how you guys took the Mr. Lover Man and flipped it over. And you see your first line.
Them call me Mr. Rough It Up.
No, you see your first line was, we thought you were going to sing the song where, what was the first line again?
Well, if I loving you looking for me, have it yes, so. No every girl I got you. And if you ever fall, I would catch you. Yo, big up Shabba Rankin. You know?
What? When we heard it, we thought you were going to, if I loving you looking for, you buck up on the right man. But no, halfway in the line you cut it. I said, yo, them man, you guys are freaking amazing
again,
with what you guys
like
are
I said to you earlier, I'm also a student. I consider myself a student of the game. So I observe when you're covering songs, I'm gonna observe this from like people like Dennis Brown and even my father too. When you're covering songs, make sure you're doing justice to it. If you now make it better, leave the people in song alone. You understand? So I couldn't take the Emperor Shabba big, massive hit song and do no foolishness with it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. So I put my unique twist to it. If I love you, looking for me, have it here. So, no every girl I got you. And if you ever fall, I would catch you. Them call me Mr. Rough It Up. Them call me Mr. Big song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Big song.
And this was on the heels of, because remember the album prior to that, I had Alain on it. We did Me and You, Secret. Yes. Me a prayer from long time. Nobody nothing know about me and you. So when we came back around to this album now, I was considering, because we had the idea for the song, and we know we needed a female for the hook, but at the same time I didn't want to like overdo that situation. Obviously my first thought was Alain, but I didn't want to overdo that situation.
Because you guys would almost seem like you're now a duo, because if you do two and then a third song, now it's like they're expecting us to always do songs together.
Yeah. So that's when we draw for Denique now. And she did a great job with that. Big song.
And you could see in that song there, at this point in your career, you were poised, you had the confidence, you had everything right here. So yes, this is, I know what I want, and this is what I'm going for. You understand the way how you dealt with it. Crazy.
Yeah.
That was 2011 that album came out. You didn't put out another album again until 2020. And this is when you started to put out the EP series.
Actually, that's not an album. That's an EP series.
No, but the EP series came because 2011 was when you put out Chino. That was the one that came out for VP. And then the EP series came out in 2020.
Yeah.
But what happened in those 9 years? How come you weren't putting out no album or anything in those 9 years?
I mean, we're dropping singles. I'm doing a whole lot of shows and a whole lot of touring during that time. I can tell you that much. So, yeah, we're tour wholly. But myself individually or us collectively, myself and my father, we toured together a lot. You know what I mean? So I've been doing a lot of that over the years. And you don't know, transitioning to one, you know what I mean, life outside of music to one, you know what I mean, made the transition outside of Jamaica to one. But I was never not active. You know what I mean? I was still releasing songs,
but not
still on riddims, but there was no, you're right. There was no album per se.
Because you gave them like a slew, like 3, almost in close succession, 9-year gap, and then you gave another like 4, back to back to back.
Yeah.
Between 2020 and 2022, you released 3 EPs and 1 album?
No, it was 3 EPs.
Okay, yeah, 3 EPs and 1 album too.
Nope.
Great Minds Think Alike.
That album didn't come out as yet.
It didn't come out as yet, bro.
It's still in the works.
I thought that album came out in 2022.
No, we dropped some singles leading up to it, but you see with that, because again, just like myself, Steven made the transition from Jamaica to the States, and then you know what I mean, he's signed to majors too. So with that now, the workload, it kind of put pressure on our personal projects. So as a result, we'll stay having to like push back and push back those projects. So Great Minds Think Alike is actually still on the list of projects to come out.
Okay, because in this time here now, was this when you won the Grammy for writing on Stony Hill in between the 2011 to 2020?
Well, yeah, let's be clear. Damian Marley won the Grammy. I received a
For
Grammy
songwriting.
I received a Grammy certificate for songwriter composer. Yeah.
Yeah, in that time, but this was all in this time here now.
Yeah.
2011 to 2020 and stuff. So then doing all of this great stuff. So then now we're gonna go up to, you put out the EPs. The EPs, what I liked with them, you get in 3 different styles. One was like girls, one was reggae style.
So with that, I was actually considering releasing an album. Because just like I said, I feel like, time now, overdue. I need a album, a full body of work. Pandemic hit, whole place locked down. So I was like, and I see everybody attention span short. So I was like, all right, maybe if I drop a full album now, I don't know. So that's when I came up with the idea, let me break it down in 3 parts. Because again, also, and a radio disc jock told me this one. She said, radio and sound DJs, sometimes they have a difficult time figuring out where to place me. Because
so
I can...
much.
They don't know whether to place me as a hardcore dancehall artist or a softcore, if that's such a word, dancehall artist or a girls artist or a reggae artist or a roots artist or a lovers rock artist. You understand? Or just a lyrics artist. You understand? So with that, that's what led me to break down the EP. So it's called The Process. So Volume 1, The Process, Volume 1. Subtitle Lyrics Over Gimmicks. So that does a focus on lyrics.
Yeah.
So I guess you'd call that one primarily dancer. So it's just lyrics in an overdrive, 7 tracks. Then I think a month or 2 later, I followed up with the second volume that was Girl Factory.
Yes.
Which, I just play girl songs, upon that. And then we followed up early the following year now with the 3rd installment, Riddim Rider style, which is a rockers, a straight reggae, roots rock reggae and lovers rock reggae. So, I'm really proud of that project. That's actually my first project that I executive produced.
That was your first one?
On my label.
Yeah. Jam
World Music.
Yeah. Same year, I think, was that the same year that Freddie took sick? The same 2022?
No, yes, you're right. No, but the EP came out 2020 into 2021.
All 3 series came out by, I thought the last series came out in 2022.
The first 2 came out 2020, at the end of 2020. The last one came out early, the first quarter 21.
Okay, that was the 3rd installment.
Yeah.
But then Freddie got sick in 2022.
The end of 2022.
November.
Yeah. Thanksgiving time. So, so on the heels of, I'm glad you mentioned him, because on the heels of, after the release of that EP, when the whole world locked down, me and the captain were Burn Up Road, where the peer live show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm promoting this EP series, like we covered the whole of America, and then when the world free up, we take on the world, So, so even when my father gets sick now, and we did like some fest and these things, and people were amazed or shocked to see like me in that capacity. But a lot of people who didn't get a chance to experience my live shows, especially prior to that, it's brand new to them. But people who have experienced those shows, they get it, they understand, because they've seen it. They've seen my show, my full set, where we gave the dancehall songs and we gave the segment where we actually sing. Yeah.
Like sing. So it's like at one point it's hard to even distinguish between you and Freddie McGregor. It's like,
we make him job easy. Like at one point, him never have to come rehearsal or sound check.
Yeah.
I would rehearse and sound check his set and mine.
It seemed like when you looked at the stage and it almost seemed like you were almost the director of what's going on the stage to a level.
To a level, yeah. So, you know what I mean? I find myself wearing several hats. You know what I mean? So even that whole Sumfest performance, like that was, you know, after that, like I had to take a breather because remember we came straight from Japan.
Yeah, because you guys were on the cruise, the Far East cruise.
So that was his first official
one back from he got sick.
Post-stroke performance. So we did that, and remember I'm playing the role of like travel organizer, road manager, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Director, stage manager, all of this. You know what I mean? So we left straight from Japan. My father and the rest of the crew, they went straight to Florida. I left from Japan, went to Boston, left from Boston. The following morning, go Florida. Then from there, the following morning, first flight out to Mobile. We reached early. My intention was to reach in early, get checked in the hotel early, get an early sound check, and get some rest for showtime. Stephen was flying from LA. So our suits that you saw us wearing, they were custom made in LA.
Yeah.
So Stephen was coming from LA. So Stephen have my suit and his suit. Stephen's flight got delayed. So we have to work around some things now and get him on another flight. Stephen bag end up on another flight. So we have to try work something to make the bag reach, because if the bag not reach, then dog near must supper. We have to go up on stage in a t-shirt and slippers. Seeing? But that end up working out. But we didn't end up getting to sound check until like nighttime. So at the point when we got to sound check, it was only enough time for get back to the hotel, get some food, shower, change off, bus, venue, stage.
So you're just running on fumes at this time here now.
All you see me on high energy and everything, bro, I may go run off for like a good 48 hours, no sleep or limited sleep.
But this is show business. At the end of the day, the show must go on.
Yeah, man. And the adrenaline when you're on stage, like, you don't really have time for think about or feel all of that. Like, I always tell people, like, when you sign up to be a musician, like, it's basically you're sacrificing your life or a part of your life. Like, nobody cares about what you're going through. You know, Bob Marley said in the music hit, you feel no pain like a real thing. You know what I mean? So much so that even the same Bob Marley, you know what I mean, his last concert where him whole entire body, lungs and brain filled with cancer, him could have still go up on stage and deliver, because it's just a thing when you're on stage, that energy, that adrenaline, like, I guess it kind of override anything else.
Yeah. Definitely. We're in 2025 right now. I know you have a single that just came out.
Yes, so it's called
single.
It's called Without Apology. So that's the lead single to my upcoming. So this is one of several projects.
Okay.
So the first one up is a reggae, a full reggae album. It's called Without Apology. So this is the first single. I'm really excited about this project. You know what I mean? And the fans, them were continuously I nag my page them and I say, yo, yeah man, yo, you have to sing. Yo, I love hear your singing voice, you have to sing. Oh, now I get that.
Yeah.
You understand?
So now they just need to support. You wanted it?
Tell them again.
You wanted it? He said he's going to give it to you.
Yes.
Now it's your turn to support
it. All right. And not just my music. Support Jamaican reggae and dancehall music. Don't just say you love the artist. Them show the support. Run up the streams and the sales and all of these things. So, yeah, looking forward to this one. I would say 90 or 95% of this project is live.
Live?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, man, when we say reggae, bro, we're not just not like a one card.
But you have to remember, you probably stood up in sessions and seen Dennis Brown, John Holt, your father, Gregory Isaacs, you name it, and seen it live.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of that, like over the years, like my superpower has always been with a live band. If you want to get the best of it, just experience me with my band.
Yeah.
And you see some magic. So we incorporate that in the recording and, you know what I mean? So when we say reggae, we're not talking about some simple, like a one card thing. We're talking about like chord progressions, changes, bridges, solos, you know what I mean, horns, you name it, the whole works. So, yeah, you're in for a treat with this one, I can tell you that much.
Okay, do you have a tentative release date?
Yes, so we're aiming for a late April, mid-late April release. So I'm pretty excited. So this project now would be a build-up to a follow-up project now, which we announced at Sumfest 23, called The Sound of the Ship. So that's an EP with myself and Steven. The one single we released from that was Look a Girl.
Look a Girl, yeah, man.
Look a Girl, big
it's
song.
Good on YouTube.
Yeah, man.
Excellent on YouTube.
Big song. So that project is actually really crazy.
Yeah.
So that project is an EP, but it's actually a precursor to The Great Minds Think Alike.
Okay, so it's still on board, still ready to go. We are going to get it.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So same concept. So Sound of the Ship is me and Steven on every track. Great Minds Think Alike, me and Steven on every track.
How is it to work with your brother, your father, and even your sister in music?
Easy. I mean, it's easiest to work with them because you understand them best. They understand you best. You know what I mean? Without even having to have a conversation, like, you know, they understand. So even with Sumfest, again, like a lot of that, some things were rehearsed and planned, but a lot of it was on the fly. Just by eye contact, you know what I mean, we can tell, say, yo, all right, Stephen, you take that part there, or me take that part there, or the captain will signal me, you take that part there, we'll go over to Shima. Yo, Shima, come in, take the, you know what I mean? So we understand and we know how to fit in well, you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, it's very easy.
Definitely.
Very easy, and we love it.
Definitely.
Love it. And that's part of the reason why I perform and tour with my father a lot too over the years, you know, because just that family chemistry. And Shima, my sister, to big up Shima. She have some great stuff on the way too.
You could see you guys are like a well-oiled machine when you guys say, okay, it's go time.
Yeah, man.
It's like you could come together and create magic, but separate and still create magic on your own. That's a blessing, boss.
And somebody said this to me recently. I mean, I haven't really given that much thought until they brought it up, but they was alluding to the fact that we are the only family. And I don't know, I feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I honestly don't have the answers.
You're just repeating what
what was said. That we are the only musical family that has, so there's the active first generation, which is my father, not just him being a legend, but active, where he can give you 3 hours worth of hits amongst several generations, while us, the second generations, were also active individually, where we can give you a set with hits, you know what I mean, individually, but we can also come together collectively. So yeah, they were alluding to the fact that we are probably the only, I don't know,
family that could function like that. I would, again, off the top, especially at a high level, I think I'd have to agree with that, because Bob Marley isn't here with the kids. He's a legend.
He wasn't around to see the success.
Yes.
So that's the point they were making. So the success, my father was still active and alive, or is still active and alive, while we are successful, so much so that we can all come together on stage.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that 100. Listen, this conversation is what I thought it was going to be, plus more, because I've seen a lot of interviews and stuff with you, but there's certain things you don't really get to go into. But I'll tell you this, me and you are 6 days apart, you know, bro.
For real?
Yes, man. You're February 12th, I'm February 18th. I understand.
Best self, Majid, the best month of the world.
Listen, I understand how your demeanor, a lot of stuff you're saying, I felt it to my core, because that's how I am. The camera's off. If it was my choice, I wouldn't be in front of the camera. I'd rather produce something. But guess what? This is the best way to move it forward. Yeah. This is what's working, so then let's do it. So everything you were saying when you said in school you were the quiet one and stuff, that was exactly me, bro. I understand what you mean. Your way of seeing things, what you've been through, the way how you described it, and you're open with a lot of things, again, that I don't really see you discuss. Thank you for sitting down and doing this today.
And to be honest, I mean, a lot of people been reaching out to me for years. I've been kind of shying away from podcast thing, for more reasons than one. I mean, the narrative that I see it steered towards a lot. I'm gonna really check for it. You know what I mean? And see a lot of artists to use it as a opportunity for point fingers and blame others for their failures or whatever. So for that reason alone, I'm kind of shy away. So you know what I mean? You're one of the first podcasts. So
maximum respect. Leave some contact info where they could check you out on social media, all that good stuff. Anything you want to say, anything you want to big up, the floor is yours right now before I get you out of here.
No, I mean, as far as contacts and the socials, everything Chino McGregor, CHINOMCGREGOR. So anything social media related, Chino McGregor. And from there, you'll see booking info, etc. All of that. I just want to big up all the viewers, big up everybody who support our music, Jamaican music, reggae music, dancehall music, Caribbean music on a whole. You understand? I think we're in this space right now where I see this cycle coming back around where you remember back in like the 90s and even the early 2000s where, the music just take off on the major scale and, whole heap of artists that get signed and things. I see that coming back into play. So it's a collective effort from all of us, not just us, the creatives, but you, the fans, you know what I mean? So we also encourage everybody to just support the music, support the culture. Don't just say you rate your artists, go out there, you know what I mean? Spend your money and buy the music, stream the music, spend your money, support the shows, support the concert sales, you know what I mean? All of that. This is ours, you understand? And we have the potential to be as big and way bigger than all the other mainstream genres. So make we come together and do this. Yeah.
Do the right thing.
Yeah, man. But big up everybody, you know the thing, muscle.
Maximum respect. This is what I'm going to leave you with. I purposely left this out of this conversation. But this is what I'm going to say, and then we're going to be out of here.
Yeah.
Where I would want to see you, I would love to see you.
Yeah.
And Yendi Phillips sit down and do a show together. And just get rid of certain things.
But so we're good though. But again, because I'm not do social media and bag talking like that. We're good. Like up to a week ago, she was in Florida and she was filming her show too and was trying to get my father on it, so I was helping her orchestrate that, and she showed me the whole setup and things. So make sure you support it. It's called Odyssey. So make sure you support it and run it up too. You know what I mean? She's doing a great thing with that.
As I said, I would love. Okay, you guys are good.
Yeah.
I would love to see you guys sit down on a show together. That's what I would love.
Boss. We'll see how that goes. But it's all love, man.
It's all love. Bossy, let me give you an outro and get you out of this wicked conversation, yeah? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Muscle, and this has been another Two Line Music Hut's Entertainment Report podcast, and we are out.
This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinesmusichut.com.